There's a memory you've carried for years, a specific one, so specific you could describe it like a scene from somewhere you actually were. Maybe it's a conversation that split something open between you and another person. Maybe it's a moment you've quietly returned to as evidence of who you are or who you once were. You can almost feel it, the light in the room, the weight of the silence before someone spoke, the way those particular seconds settled into your body and stayed there. And then someone who was there tells you it didn't happen that way. They aren't contesting what it meant to you. They're contesting what happened. The room was different. The words were different. The sequence of events, the one you've been carrying as proof of something, unfolds completely wrong when they describe it. The reflex, almost immediate, is to assume they're the one misremembering. Because what you recall feels so present, so close, so physically yours that it couldn't be assembled. It feels like footage, something recorded and stored. But it isn't footage. Every memory is more like a story built after the fact, assembled from fragments, filtered through everything you felt and believed on the day you last recalled it, and quietly revised to fit whoever you'd become by then. What feels like retrieval is closer to reconstruction, each time, from the position of who you are now. Fading would be clean. What happens is almost worse. Memories stay vivid and altered. The detail you feel most certain about is often the one most changed. Confidence in a memory is not a reliable indicator of its accuracy, which means the life you remember living may not be the one you actually lived. Here's the part that doesn't hold up under pressure. There's no file being opened when you remember something, no archive, no intact record accessed. The brain pulls together fragments, sensory pieces, emotional residue, things you've been told about yourself, things you've since read or heard or believed, and assembles them into something that feels whole. It fills the gaps, smooths the edges. When it's done, what you have feels real, finished. Then it stores that. The reconstruction it just built, already one step removed from what happened, which means the next time you remember, you aren't touching the original. You're touching the last version, the one already carrying all the revisions. And the memories you return to most, the ones that feel most certain, most yours, are the most revised. Every retrieval opens a window in which a rewrite becomes possible. The ones you've lived with longest have passed through that process the most times. Think about the story you tell most about your past, the one that has become, quietly, an explanation for yourself. Every time you've told it, to someone new, to yourself in a quiet moment, something in it shifted, slightly, imperceptibly. The telling changed it. So did the listener. The version of you doing the telling changed it most of all. That memory isn't a record of what happened. It's a record of what you've needed it to mean. If the memories are reconstructed, then so is the self built from them. This is where the idea becomes harder to hold, because identity doesn't float free of memory. The sense of being a continuous person, someone with a history, a particular way of moving through the world, a character that persists, rests on the stories you carry about what you've experienced and what those experiences meant. Remove those stories, and the thread connecting who you are now to who you were then comes apart. But if those stories have been quietly rewritten at every retrieval, shaped by later experience, by the person you were becoming, by what you needed to be true at the moment of remembering, then the self they assembled was never a fixed thing. It was always being authored. Consider the way a defining moment shifts over time. A rejection that once felt like evidence of something wrong with you slowly becomes the thing that redirected you. A relationship that ended painfully gets recast as necessary, as a phase, as something you had to pass through. The event itself doesn't change. The memory of it does. And the self that emerges from those recastings is as much a product of where you are now as of where you were then. The story you tell about yourself is always in revision. Every new experience reaches backward and revises what came before it. The autobiography is never finished, and it was never entirely accurate. Which leaves a question that doesn't resolve easily. If the self is assembled from reconstructed memories, and those reconstructions are shaped by the self doing the remembering, then what exactly is being preserved? If this is landing somewhere strange, write the word fiction in the comments. There's a version of you that feels completely certain about your own past, the moments that shaped you, the reasons you are the way you are, the story of how you arrived here. That version may not have noticed that the story keeps changing. Every year you age, every experience that lands hard enough to shift something, these reach back and quietly adjust what's there. The past you remember 10 years from now will not be the same as the one you remember today. It will feel just as real, just as immediate, just as undeniably yours. And the revisions will have already happened before you were aware of them, because that's when they happen, below the level of choice, below intention. Perhaps that's what memory was always for, a living instrument. The past quietly reshaped to serve whoever you are now, so the self can keep moving forward without coming apart. But that leaves something unresolved. If the memories are shaped by the self, and the self is assembled from memories, then the whole structure circles back without ever touching ground. There's no original version, no moment where the record was clean. The only version of your life that has ever existed is the one being written right now, by a self that was itself written, from memories that were themselves rewritten, in directions you never consciously chose. Somewhere under all the revision, there was something that actually happened. Whether you can still reach it, and whether it would even be recognizable if you did, that question doesn't resolve. It just sits there, underneath everything you're certain of.